Hello everyone, my name is Henry. I'm a doctor in regional Australia. Just check that this is working on Facebook. Fantastic. This year I'm donating 50% of everything I earn to charity. I'm doing it because I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's probably been the right thing for us to do for a long time, and I think in the future when people look back on this time in history, they'll probably think it was the right thing to do as well. So before I move on, I just want to say I'm coming at you live right now from the lands of the Yorta Yorta people. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So we live in a particularly interesting time in the world. I think there's never been a time before where so much of how your life's going to pan out depends on the geographical location on the earth on which you are born and who your parents are. And your quality of life, your health, your wealth, your education, your happiness, how loved you are, it all depends so much on where you were born and who your parents are. And that doesn't seem very fair. And I'm someone that's been very lucky to be born in Australia in a nice city, in a nice suburb, with a really loving family. And I think maybe I have a bit of a moral obligation to even the playing field a bit, to give a leg up to people that haven't been as lucky. And that's what I'm doing. This is my first year of working. I've just started my job as a doctor in northern Victoria. And this is something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm really excited to start doing it. So, in terms of the numbers that make me, that sort of make me think a lot about this, the median wage in Australia is about $45,000 a year, the median household income. That means that half of Australia is above that, half is below, earning that every year. And that's not huge, it's not like super yacht money or anything, but it's pretty good. And you can live really comfortably on that. And meanwhile, in other countries like Liberia or Benin or Madagascar, the median household income, 50% of the population earns above this and 50% below. It's like $900. And that's accounting for purchasing power parity as well, if you're interested in that. And that accounts for the fact that living expenses are lower there and all that, but ultimately it's actually less than $900, or up to $1,500 in Madagascar maybe. It's such an enormous discrepancy between countries. And I think about it all the time. I think about it as I'm going to sleep and as I'm waking up. And it's a bit depressing, but I think also what it means is that we have an enormous opportunity as people who have had lots of advantages in life, have been born in convenient locations to convenient parents. We have, and other advantages as well, by the way. But we have an enormous power, an enormous leverage to make a difference to people. Anyway, $1 here in Australia is worth like half a packet of chocolate biscuits, but $1 in Bangladesh is worth 4 to 10 hours work, depending on how you count the money. I mean, it's completely nuts. And if you start thinking every time you spend $1, you start thinking, well, instead of this is 2 minutes of my work day, or this is half a packet of chocolate biscuits, if you start thinking about what that really is, what that really means to someone in a country overseas like Bangladesh, it's a day off work. It's a day to spend time with your kids. It's an entire day to get an education or build a business or develop your community or just relax. So I want to use the leverage that I have, which is why I'm doing this, obviously. But how do you do it? And that's super tricky. How do you use money to make the world a better place? It's not that easy, and I think the first step to doing it is probably to recognize that it's not easy at all. The evidence is murky and hard to read, frankly. It's complex. There's lots of false starts. What we think might work doesn't work at other times. Very frustrating, but I think a lot of people maybe take that frustration and they let it stop them from doing it at all. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to give up just because it's too hard. I think there's probably things out there that we can do as people living in wealthier countries. There's probably places we can lend our resources that will be helpful, and I want to find those. And that's, I suppose, why I'm doing these recordings, is because I want to get people's opinions on what they think works. All right. So where do we start? I am fully aware of the movement of effective altruism. And effective altruism is a super basic idea. It's just we should think very carefully about where we give our charity, because some charities do lots of good with the money and some do less good. And we should really think, where is our money going to do the most good? Where are our resources and time going to do the most good? And we should channel things into that. I mean, of course, it's such a good idea. There's some problems with it, like it's very hard to quantify good. Like, how do you count how much good is being done by a charity? It's easy for something like malaria cases. You just count how many people have malaria in an area. But how do you quantify something like a piece of art that inspires people to live better lives, or like 50,000 people showing up to a rally against racial injustice? How do you quantify someone living in a way that inspires others, being an inspiring person? It's really hard. And effective altruism kind of definitely favours things that are easily quantifiable. The other issue that I see is that effective altruism is a fantastic idea, but of course if everyone started doing it tomorrow, which they never would, but if they did, everyone started doing it tomorrow, then everyone would give to the best charities and no one would give to the less good. And the classic example of this is the guide dogs. In Australia we have this charity called the Guide Dogs, and they take about $50,000 to train one dog, usually a Labrador, and they are used by people with visual impairment to help them get around, help them do day-to-day tasks, navigate the world, and it can have an enormous impact on them. It can change their lives fantastically at the cost of $50,000, and it's helping one person. Now that's great. I suppose when you compare it to something that's saving lives for a few $1,000s, it's easy to say, oh, well, we should just take all of the money we give to the guide dogs and send it to that thing where all of the money is going to be used for the most useful purpose. So that's not necessarily... I mean, I think there's a problem there, and I think maybe there's room to create a system where it's not as all or nothing like that. Anyway, this is where I want to introduce my donation strategy. And this is an ongoing process, and I want to hear from you constantly. Message me whenever you have a thought about what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing right. This is really hard. It's really hard figuring out how to make the world a better place, which is all I want to do. And I need help. I will make mistakes. So if you have any thoughts at all about what I should do, I want you to send me a message, send me an email, leave a comment on anything. Tell me what I should do. This is my website that I've created for what I'm calling the Workathon, because I'm doing my job. I'm doing work, and it's a fundraising activity. This is how I'm planning on donating to charities. I call it the pyramid scheme. This is the pyramid scheme. You give the most to the best, and you give slightly less to the great charities, and you give some to the good charities. And I think this kind of creates a bit of a balance of... It means that the guide dogs isn't going to collapse if we all start becoming effective altruists. And I think it's a nice middle ground. So that's kind of the strategy. Now, how do you find out which are the best charities? And the classic website to do this is GiveWell. GiveWell is a charity evaluator started up about 10 years ago, I think, by two ex-hedge fund managers. They use randomized controlled trials and surveys, and they demand evidence from the charities that they assess. They demand transparency, and they use all that to try and sort of figure out who's doing the most good with the money that we give them. Their top charities are usually about public health, preventative healthcare. The Malaria Consortium is all about seasonal malaria treatment. What do they call it? Seasonal malaria chemo prevention. Preventing people from getting malaria, particularly small children. Nets to prevent malaria. Supplements, cash incentives for immunising small children, fighting worm infections, parasitic helminthic worm infections, and then Give Directly is the other one that they always recommend. Not always, just more recently, I think. Give Directly is a charity that, as it sounds, gives money directly to people who need it. Sounds kind of nuts, but they claim that the evidence that they have shows that it works. I'm not so sure. I read their report, and they seem to put a lot of stock in this one RCT that involved 1,000 people in one country. Anyway, GiveWell is probably where I'm going to base most of my decisions on. I think it's really hard to quantify who's doing the most good, but something like GiveWell, it's a start. It's not the end, it's a start, and I think it's probably a good place to start. So I think today, I suppose I can see if anyone's presented me with any complex ideas. This is really a terrible way to do this, actually. Anyway. What I want to do is give to charity live on air. My first paycheck just came in. I made $3,370.40. So I've already calculated this using my calculator. I'm going to give today $1,658.70. And we're going to distribute it in a pyramid scheme manner across the best charities from GiveWell and whatever else I come across. And this is the part, I suppose, where I want people to send in what they think are really valuable charities and sort of think about where that fits in to the pyramid scheme. Enough stuffing around. I think because I just read the Malaria Consortium's report and I also read Give Directly's report, I think these are probably who I want to give to today. I think I also want to give to the Guide Dogs Victoria just as a matter of principle, because they often sort of, from what I've seen, they that sort of charity centres in the debate around effective altruism and when is effective altruism okay. Another charity that I really want to support is the Indigenous Literacy Foundation, which I think is really cool. Truth. And this is the point where it gets really boring, because I'm going to turn off the camera now so you can't all steal my financial information. Hope you don't take offense. But again, this is going to be an ongoing process. I mean, I've kind of figured out what I want to do today, just because this is the first stream. This is the first day I'm doing this. And I'm hoping that in future I'll get messages, I'll get comments suggesting some ideas about who I might be able to give to. So I'll just shut off the screen cap. For a moment. Confirm that this is indeed not going to give away all my financial information. And let's give to the Malaria Consortium. Other. Do I have to give in pounds? Seems unfortunate. Would rather not. Look up a quick pounds to AUD conversion, 1.77. Let's say we want to give 600 to the Malaria Consortium. £338.339. Nice. This is so incredibly boring, I'm sorry. Alright, cheers. That's one down. Let's go. We now have 158.70 left. I think I have questions about Give Directly's, how effective it actually is. So the way they do it is they send people out to these communities and I'll dedicate. How do I dedicate it? I'll dedicate it to my beautiful viewers. No, I don't want to give it monthly. Holy smokes. So the way they do it is they send people out to these villages and they use elders from the villages, but also I think just use kind of their own criteria to assess who in the village most needs money. I think that has the potential to set up some quite strange incentives around, I mean, it incentivizes people to sort of look poorer than they are, because then they're going to be able to get a $400 grant or whatever Give Directly hands out. I mean, it's a very pessimistic view, and I think from the RCT that they did, there wasn't any evidence that that does happen. But it's certainly a worrying thing for me. Receive give directly emails. Nah. And here's the bit where I get to do a dedication. I'll send it to myself. Absolutely atrocious. Boom. All right. We've got 658.70 to play with. I mean, I think again, just thinking about my pyramid and where things fit in. I mean, I do love the idea of, I haven't actually read New Incentives report, but I do love the idea of incentivizing child vaccination. So maybe that could be the next one. I like going directly through the charities rather than going through GiveWell. Don't quite know why I would go directly through GiveWell. It's really annoying because I haven't set up PayPal. Next time, it's on my to-do list. Helen Keller is one of the most incredible people that's ever lived. She was born blind and deaf. She was not born blind and deaf, actually. She was born with sight and hearing, but she lost it by the age of about 18 months from some horrible infection. She lost her sight and her hearing before the age at which she learnt even the concept of language. And yet somehow, and there's videos that you can watch, she was able to learn to speak. Completely nuts. I will give 300 to Helen Keller. I'm fully aware that I'm not actually giving money to Helen Keller. You don't all need to know the full details of my middle initials. Don't ask me what state I'm in if I've told you I'm in Australia, please. Okay, we'll ignore that. I hope my bank doesn't think that I'm getting scammed. There's a problem processing your request. Is it because I didn't put my title in? State or province is required. Cheeky. Very cheeky. State or province is required. Country, Australia. State, Alaska, Alabama. You get... none. I'll go none. Do the capture again. Another donation complete. That was 306.58.7 minus 300. Leaves us with 358.70. Oh, it's still quite a lot of money. I don't know that I want to give $300 to the guide dogs. I'll give to my old friends at the Against Malaria Foundation. I've given to these guys in the past. I once took part in a clinical trial in which I got malaria. I was given malaria, and then they gave us an experimental medication to try and cure us. It didn't quite work, but it worked almost. It's very exciting. It's one of the best things I ever did. They paid me $2,880, and I gave it to the Against Malaria Foundation because I thought it would be a bit ironic. And it was one of the best things I've ever done. The trial, as well as giving, the trial was a lot of fun. Having malaria sucked, but getting cured of it was very exciting. How do I want to... Online. Yes. Turn off. Next. Number of nets. That's silly. How much do I have left? $358.70. Let's just give him $300. $358. Let's give him $200. Let's give him $300. 200, 300. Keep up the good work. That's the message I'm leaving on the website. $300 Australian dollars. Correct. Donation methods with the lowest fees. So 1.75 transaction fee for MasterCard's not great. I'll think about that in future. Just typing in sensitive information. And I am not a robot. And they agree. Huh. They want me to verify. Send me your text. Give me that text. Give me that text. I don't know how I'm going to make this less painfully boring to watch. I suppose I don't really need a live stream. Me doing the boring work of typing in my credit card details 6 times. Beautiful. Against malaria. And it's guide dogs time. We'll do a one-off. Let's go to the Indigenous Literacy Foundation first. I want to send these guys... how much do we have? 58. I want to send these guys $40. Because I think what they do, from what I know, and I don't actually know a lot about them, I've got to be honest. I think what they do from what I know is pretty awesome. Is it saving lives? From getting malaria and dying? No. That doesn't mean it's not incredibly valuable. How much did I just give him? I didn't want to give him $200. Holy shit. Did I say 40? Is that what I said? 40. Yeah. Oh, I've almost remembered my expiry date by heart. How's that? No. It's another 40 down. Nice rounding error, Python. Oof, look at that. And then guide dogs time. That's GDs for give directly, not guide dogs. How much do we have left? 1870. Thanks, guide dogs. You're doing good work. Salutation. Huh. Okay. Black time. Classic. Entering the number as your name. This is a terrible way to do this. I'm definitely going to show my credit card number to the entire planet. Really got to come up with a better way to do this. Processing, processing, processing. Boom. All right. What did I do wrong? What did I do right? What can I do differently? I know that a number of people have already commented some other charities, and I really appreciate that. I'll certainly have a look at them, and maybe we can talk about it next time I get a paycheck. I mean, I've said it before, it's going to be an ongoing process. It's really hard to figure out how to make the world a better place. But I think just because it's hard, we shouldn't give up on doing it. I'll probably leave it there. I'll see you when I get my next paycheck. Stay good.